As hairdressers, we all understand why it is important to have an established core of classic haircuts that work across all lengths and textures. With this in mind, Tony and Guy created the original Classic Cuts video collection. This has played a major part in the educational program that has helped establish our worldwide reputation. At Tony and Guy, we are constantly inspired by contemporary fashion trends and reflect these in our annual collections. Now we have also revised our basic techniques and present a second collection of classic cuts, which, as well as updating the original cuts, have added a men's collection and a guide to personalizing techniques. This collection of videos and the accompanying step-by-step book will provide you with a solid foundation in the skills of modern haircutting and color. Classic Cuts 2 from Tony and Guy.
Transient length haircut is a longer layered shape, point cut for texture. A profile parting is taken from the center of the forehead to the center of the nape. Radial partings are taken from the crown to the top of the ears, separating the back sections from the front. A pivoting radial section is taken from the crown to the nape. With the head upright, the section is combed to 90 degrees at the crown to over-directed beneath this. The line is point cut visually, starting shorter at the crown to longer at the perimeter. Pivoting radial sections are continued around the back of the head. Subdivide the previously cut section to use as a guide. Comb the hair up to 90 degrees at the crown to over-directed beneath. The line is point cut from short to long. The last pivoting radial section behind the ear is over-directed back and up to maintain weight and length. It is point cut following the guideline. The opposite side is sectioned in exactly the same way and the technique repeated. The key difference being the line is cut from the perimeter to the crown instead of from the crown to the perimeter. Balance is cross-checked before continuing. Working in front of the radial parting, a pivoting radial section is taken from the crown through to the hairline at the side in front of the ear. This section is over-directed up and back to a stationary guideline behind the ear to maintain length and weight in front. The guideline is followed, point cutting from short to long. Pivoting radial sections are continued until the profile parting is reached, over-directing sections up and back behind the ear, point cutting to follow the guideline. Exactly the same technique is used on the opposite side. Check balance. A profile section is taken approximately ½ an inch wide, from the crown to the front hairline. With the head upright, the section is combed to 90 degrees, and using the pre-existing guide to length at the crown, the hair is point cut at an angle from short to long. Continue to increase in length towards the front. In this case, the existing length is considered suitable. Pivoting radial sections are continued through the sides until the profile parting is reached. Using the inversion technique, standing on the opposite side to the side being cut, all sections are over-directed up to the initial profile section, a stationary guideline. All of the hair that reaches is point cut to follow this guide. balance is checked before continuing. Exactly the same technique is repeated on the other side. Remember to stand on the opposite side to the side being cut. Cross-check balance. The perimeter is now detailed, keeping the profile parting in place. The hair in the back is combed to natural fall, elevated to 1 finger's depth, and point cut from the center out. The hair in front of the ear is over-directed back behind the shoulder, and the guideline followed, held at 1 finger's depth, and point cut square. The opposite side is cut in the same way, held at 1 finger's depth, and point cut piecemeal from the center profile parting to the outside edge. The balance is cross-checked. The hair in front of the ear is now combed to natural fall, and, still holding the hair at 1 finger's depth, the line is checked with point cutting, rounding any excess lengths. The balance is checked from the front before continuing. The sides are personalized with slide cutting. Over-direct all of the hair in front of the ear forward, elevate to approximately 45 degrees away from the face, and, using the scissors like a razor, slide cut from the lip area down to the existing perimeter length. Use exactly the same technique on the opposite side, only this time stand behind the shoulder instead of in front. This will allow greater control of the line being cut. Check balance. Because of the model's natural curl, we wanted to show the hair styled 2 ways. One with the diffuser used to enhance the curl, and the other power-dried and styled with a round brush for volume and texture. Our model's hair was coloured using an alternative half-head technique, which can be viewed on our classic colouring series. Transient length recap. Back and sides. Partings and sections are pivoting radials. Distribution moves from 90 degrees at the crown to over-directed beneath. Elevation also moves from 90 degrees to over-directed. And the cut is visual, from short to long. Top. Partings and sections move from profile into pivoting radials. Distribution moves from 90 degrees to over-directed. Elevation moves from 90 degrees to over-directed. And the cut is visual, from short to long. Perimeter. Partings and sections are profile. Distribution is natural fall in the back to over-directed through the sides. Elevation moves from 1 finger's depth at the back to a stationary 45 degrees at the side. And the line is point cut through the back and slide cut through the sides. Personalizing is an essential part of the Tony and Guy philosophy. Texturizing techniques are used to adapt classic shapes to suit the individual. On the last video in this series, we introduced techniques such as point cutting, slicing, brick cutting, and razoring, which expand the classic portfolio to accommodate all lengths and textures of hair and allow the stylist to develop their creativity for the benefit of the client.